Welcome back to another video. So I think we discussed till the supervised machine learning. We discussed about what is supervised machine learning and how the supervised machine learning is happening, and we also see what are the types of supervised machine learning, the two categories of supervised machine learning. The first one is a classification and then a regression. These two are the subclasses of supervised machine learning. And we also see how the machine learning is classified, where supervised, unsupervised and reinforcement. And under supervised, as we discussed, we have regression as well as classification problem, and for each category we have a number of algorithms specifically for dealing with those kinds of algorithms. So now we get into in detail about what is regression and what is classification, and further we will see what are the applications of supervised machine learning, and we will close that by that we will close the supervised machine learning, and then we in the upcoming video we will get into unsupervised machine learning. Okay, so this is the introduction part, and later on we will be discussing about each algorithms under each category in detail. Okay, so stay tuned for that. So we'll start with this. So what is regression? So regression, as we told, regression is a type of supervised machine learning, and that is used to predict continuous values. So here the values are integers. Okay, so such as, for example, we are going to predict house price prediction, or you are going to like stock prediction, stock price you are going to predict it, and sometimes you are going to predict the customers the customers churns, in a sense the customers willingness to buy something. Then likewise you can go for prediction of a vehicle price. You are selling a vehicle and you are going to predict how much it is. So these are the different in terms of percentage. Sometimes you can see IRTC in the train booking websites, you can see the percentage, the confirmation, like you are going to book a ticket and it is in the waiting list, and you are going to say whether it is going to confirm or not. The percentage is there, so the probability. So we have a number of applications for this linear regression. Particularly it will give you the output as the continuous values, integer type values. So linear regression learn a function that map from the input features to an output features. So since it is supervised machine learning, we have some input data and it is already mapped to some output that we called it as labels, and we'll predict a new we'll predict for the new value, and we will say whether it is this, what is the value of the output, like that it will predict. So what are the different algorithms that comes under this regression? So under regression we have linear regression is there, which is the simplest regression. Then we have polynomial regression, then multi-polynomial is there, higher degree polynomials are there, then support vector machine regression, then decision tree regression. Then this SVM and decision tree all works for classification and also, so not only specifically for regression, and that will work for random forest also. So these are the different algorithms that work on the regression problem, and few of the algorithms that I mentioned, SVM, decision tree and random forest, will also suitable for dealing with classification problem also. Now we will deal with the next category of supervised machine learning, that is classification. So what is classification? So classification is a type of supervised machine learning, and that is basically used to predict the categorical value. So the previous case in terms of your regression problem, we are going to predict integer value or true values, but here we are going to predict the categorical value. So such as, for example, you are going to categorize the email into spam mail or non-spam mail, or whether you are going to predict a medical image, for example cancers and no cancer, tumor or no tumor. So these are the different types of classification program where you are going to split into category, like true, false, fruits, vegetables, colors, blue, green, like that. This kind of problem is like you are going to take the data set and you will be going to categorize into groups. So this is called a categorical values, and in the problem which has these type of categorical values, we go for these classification algorithms. So in this under this classification problem, we are going to apply different types of classification algorithms. So which are the different kinds of classification algorithms? So here we can see one is a logistic regression. The name itself, it is called a regression, but this logical regression is dealing with classification problem. And again, if you look at, we have a support vector machine SVM, which work on linear regression problem also, but here we are going to use in classification problem, will work for classification as well. And apart from that, we have decision tree and random forest, as I mentioned earlier, which is also used for regression problem as well. And we have naive Bayes. So these are the different algorithms basically used for classification problems. Now we will see what are the different types of supervised, different advantages of supervised machine learning. So starting from the first, the supervised machine learning allows collecting data and process the data output from the previous experience. And here specifically these data are labeled, then only we can apply this supervised machine learning. Now it helps to optimize the performance criteria with the help of this experience. Then supervised machine learning helps to solve various types of real world computational problem. Of course, we can do both the regression type of problem, also we can do the classification based type of problems. It perform as I said, it perform classification and regression tasks. That means you can deal with integer type of values, and also you can go and deal with categorical values as well, using these types of two categories of machine learning algorithms, supervised machine learning algorithms. It allows estimating or mapping the result into a new sample. We have complete control over choosing the number of classes we wanted in training data set. So we only going to say how many classes are required, depends upon the behavior of the data, then we will categorize accordingly in classification problem. So these are the basic advantages, like but these algorithms will purely work on the data which is labeled. That's the only disadvantage we have, because we cannot expect that all the data set that we are going to deal with in future in the real problem are labeled. So and also the data set is very large, we can't able to go and do the labeling bit by bit. So in that case only we will be facing an issue with this unsupervised learning. In that case we will be shifting to the other next one called unsupervised learning. Okay, so and a few other disadvantages comes in, like classifying big data. As I told, classification or labeling of this big data set will be a challenging and time consuming, and training for supervised learning need a lot of computational time, so it requires a lot of time. So training is very hard in this type of supervised learning, and it cannot handle all complex tasks in machine learning. So this supervised machine learning cannot handle all the complex tasks. Then computation time, as I mentioned, it is very high, since you need a lot of time to do training on these data sets, and it requires label. Of course, this supervised machine learning requires labels. Without label, this not gonna work. And of course it requires a training process. Without training, it will not do any kind of predictions. It's trained on the labeled data, and that only it will predict for the future instance. It will able to map the relationship between the data, and then it will map that to an output. So this is the disadvantages of machine learning. So where this supervised machine learning are used, since we know the advantages and we have some shortcomings are there in the supervised machine learning, but grabbing those advantages of this machine learning, supervised machine learning, we have some set of applications which are spam filtering, where your email, basically whichever mail you have using Gmail or Hotmail, we can see the mails are classified into two categories, like spam and non-spam. And the image classification, how you're going to classify the images, not tumor, then fraud detection, then natural language processing. These are the applications. So next class we will be dealing with the unsupervised machine learning.